Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a smaller 6-game slate today. Had some good wins yesterday, so hopefully we can continue today. Uh, with that said, let's get into the games first. So Boston over the Knicks, Chicago over Charlotte, Brooklyn over Detroit, Cleveland over Houston, Dallas over Phoenix, and the Clippers over the Spurs. Overall, I don't particularly like the slate on FanDuel, but it does look pretty decent on DraftKings. There's enough value, I think, that's going to open up throughout the day, especially as we get more information on injuries. It should be viable here. On FanDuel, is this? I couldn't even find this. I think I found one player under 6,000 that I liked at this point, so maybe there's some value that opens up, but it's going to be really hard over there. But with that said, let's get into the injury report today. So we have a pretty extensive injury report for a 6-game slate. For the Knicks, Robinson is out. For the Celtics, Smart is out. For the Pistons, this is going to be a big place of contention here. Cunningham, Bagley, and Joseph are out, and Stewart and Livers are questionable. So if Stewart misses, then that would definitely open up some viability on some of these guys. I look for their the one thing that's a little bit irritating about Detroit today is they got a tough matchup, and they seem to be a little bit overpriced though, so that's going to be annoying considering they're one of the few teams that have some injuries that could change our outlook. For the Nets, Durant is out. For the Bulls, Javante Green and Dragic are out. For the Hornets, Oubre is out, and then Ball and Hayward are questionable. That would obviously make an adjustment for that game, for that team. For the Cavs, Mitchell is questionable. If he was to miss, that would definitely open up some viability here and would make a couple guys very interesting, especially considering the fact that they're in a plus situation in the matchup, and then they're pretty fairly priced. Like Garland would be interesting, Levert would be interesting, and even the big guys and Mobley and Allen would be interesting if Mitchell misses today. For the Rockets, Porter Jr. continues to be out. For the Mavs, Wood continues to be out along with Cleaver. For the Suns, Booker, Payne, and Shamet are all out. It doesn't look like anybody else is questionable. Obviously, there could be something later on, but maybe Aiton but at this point on the injury report, they're not there. For the Spurs, Vassell is out. For the Clippers, Morris and Kennard are questionable, and Wall is out. Now, obviously, if the Clippers may end up ruling some people out later throughout the day, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But if Morris was to miss, that would definitely open up some, Batum man situations and even Powell. But right now, if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George both play, then that does kind of limit the team overall from those value plays. So with that said, let's get into the plays I like here on DraftKings. We're going to start off with Kyrie Irving. Now, he's had several really good games in a row. Uh, he has been hitting his marks lately. Hopefully, this can continue in this plus matchup against Detroit. The only risk here is a blowout, which definitely could happen. Detroit has been playing completely awful lately, so he is a little bit risky from that perspective. But if you need to pay up for a $10,000 guy, he's one of the better options available in that range. Then we'll look at Julius Randle, who I really am a little split on today because he has some good upside. He's been playing really well as he's been playing for the last couple weeks at least. But he does have some risk in this matchup. Boston does typically play pretty good defensively inside, but overall he's in a great spot. He's played really solid this season, just in general. And even though this game is an away game, at Boston, I still like him a lot here. Should get a full complement of minutes and should be able to get in that double-double situation and hopefully even get close to a triple-double. Then we'll look at DeMar DeRozan, who has been extremely good lately for Chicago, and he's got a nice plus matchup here against Charlotte, who isn't very good. And I will add that he's been playing really good with the injuries to other guards here. And as long as he continues to play like that, he's going to be somebody I'm going to consider. Though he doesn't have massive upside, as long as Levine is playing, he's kind of a safer play, if you will. But I think he's viable on the slate, especially being a little bit smaller. But he wouldn't be my first choice at the position, at the small forward or power forward position. But I do think he's viable if you have the room for the money. Then we're gonna look at Paul George. Now he is definitely got some upside in the slate. He's a little bit cheaper than I expected him to be. He obviously has big time upside, but he's been very streaky, and the Clippers are doing all sorts of crazy things with their lineups and stuff. So his minutes have been kind of in flux. So he's a little bit risky, but he is in the same kind of realm as DeRozan when it comes to a decent value. Then we're going to look at Chris Paul. Now, I really like Chris Paul today, assuming he ends up playing full complement of minutes. It's a tough matchup against Doncic, but he's going to have to play well in order for Phoenix to stay in this game, and I expect him to do so, especially with all the injuries and stuff like that. He's going to have plenty of opportunity, especially if Ayton comes back. He'll have some good assist opportunity as well. Then we'll look at Spencer Dinwiddie. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate, simply because his price is actually pretty fair for what he's been doing. His usage has gone up a lot due to Wood being out, and as long as that continues, he's going to be somebody I'm going to take in consideration. Then we'll look at Malcolm Brogdon. Now, Brogdon has missed a couple games, but assuming that he comes back today, he should be good to go. And with injury to Marcus Smart, he should get more minutes as a result. And it looks like he's in a great spot for a good matchup here against the Knicks. Obviously, the only caveat here is that maybe the Knicks put quickly on him, which would definitely slow him down a little bit, but he's still viable on the slate in general. Jalen Brunson also looks pretty interesting today, though he's been more streaky lately. His price has come down from its peak a little bit, so he is viable here, but he's not a top tier option. But he's somebody I do think you have to consider today. Then we'll look at Jalen Duren for the Pistons, and he's been starting and he's been playing really well. He obviously had a gigantic game last game, which prompted his price to pop back up to 5,000. He's still very viable here with all the injuries to Detroit and potential guys out. And though it is a tough matchup against Nicholas Claxton, so it's a little bit risky. But he's playing well. He did well against Milwaukee too, which I thought he would, but he did better than I expected. I look for him to have another pretty solid game here. So then we're going to look at Jeremy Sochan for the Spurs. Now he's got a tough matchup against the Clippers, but he's played really well with the injuries to Vassell for the Spurs, and so I look for him to continue to play well. He's not somebody that's going to go for 40 fantasy points, but he does feel like he's pretty safe right now. He's just been playing really solid. And then we're going to look at Dorian Finney-Smith. He's probably my favorite value play. Now, he isn't a guy that's going to get you 35 fantasy points either, but he's been pretty safe and solid since he's come back and been playing the last few games. And he's getting a pretty good amount of minutes due to Wood being out, and I look for that to continue. Though his usage is extremely low, he is reliant on getting like putbacks and stuff like that, but he's been playing decently, and so I think he's viable on the slate at a pretty low price. But again, there's not a ton of like great value, but there might be some that opens up throughout the day. So let's go ahead and get on FanDuel, and we're going to start with Kyrie Irving over here. Now, obviously, he is been playing extremely well lately. He's had 4 straight really good games. I look for that to continue. He's just on another level right now, especially with Durant out. He's having to take over a lot of the usage. Then we'll look at Julius Randle. Now, I really do like how he's played lately. I don't think he's in a position where he's going to like 6x or something in this game, but he has some nice upside here, and he's been playing really well, and I look for that to continue. Then we'll look at DeMar DeRozan. DeMar has played really good the last few games since he's been back, and I expect that to continue here. The Bulls are kind of reliant on him a little bit even more simply because of some of the injuries to guards and stuff, and so I look for him to have a good game in this particular matchup. The only risk there, obviously, is blowout. Paul George, I really like him today. I feel like he's a little bit underpriced here on FanDuel, even though he hasn't had a gigantic game lately. He's kind of in a good position, and especially if some more guys get ruled out for the Clippers, we'll have to see how that goes. Then we're going to look at Nicholas Claxton for Brooklyn. He's in a nice plus matchup here. He's been playing above his value for a little while, and I really like how he's been playing. He does have a pretty good floor as well as in the mid 30s, and so I expect him to play well and be a good force in this game. His usage seems to have crept up slightly with Durant out as well, which definitely helps. Then we'll look at Chris Paul. He's probably one of my favorite plays here on FanDuel, simply because he's played really solid. Though his price is not super ideal, he has some ups and downs, but now that he's back and should be playing a full complement of minutes, I look for him to have a good game in this match against Dallas. Then we'll look at Zach LaVine for Chicago. He's kind of interesting because of his price, but he's a little bit risky because his floor has been pretty low lately, but he does have upside, and look for him to bounce back from the last game that he was pretty terrible in. And then Malcolm Brogdon, I really just like him today because he's going to be back, and it looks like he's going to get a full complement of minutes. And anytime Marcus Smart is out, he definitely gets a usage bump, and so I look for that to be a good opportunity for him today in this particular matchup against a tough but opponent that he can take advantage of. So, with that said, guys, that's what I have for DraftKings and FanDuel. Obviously, not a ton of value today. Not my favorite slate by any stretch, but it is a 6-game slate, so you're going to have to pay down somewhere. With that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.